I have been living in rural Ohio for about the last year. Since moving in with my husband, I've become what some would call the crazy cat lady of our neighborhood. It's not that I have a lot of cats. It's that I feed and befriend every stray I come across. Living in the country means you are surrounded by wildlife. Deer, mice, skunks, rats, bats, raccoons, possums, and, you guessed it, cats. Humans are terrible creatures sometimes. They have a habit of taking in animals they can't handle, then quickly changing their minds when things get too hard. When that happens in the city, most people drop their new pets off at a local shelter. Here in the country, they just throw them outside. If those unloved furballs aren't fixed, they team up and make more of themselves. If I had to guess, our small town alone has about 50 strays. I would guess I've made friends with around 15 of them in the past year. I leave food on my front and back porch for them every night. I brush the more friendly ones. And I've even kidnapped a few for a day to take them in for vaccines. I can't adopt them all, but I want to try and make life a little less hard for all these guys. Lately, something strange has been happening though. I have a tendency to stay up late. My husband started working the night shift about a year ago, and it's hard to get used to sleeping in an empty bed. Since we moved for his job, I have developed a case of separation insomnia. I only really sleep well on his days off. I work the average 7 to 3 shift. When I get home, I try to clean the house, tend to our pets, indoor and outdoor, and make dinner/breakfast for him to eat before work. During this time, my husband, Jake, is fast asleep. He sleeps just fine without me. Lucky bastard. Sometimes, I nap with him after I make dinner, and he wakes up around 9 p.m. to get ready for work. Once he's gone, I tend to just turn on the TV and game to pass the time until I have to get myself ready for work. Jake and I pass like ships in the night. It's hard to manage sometimes. But we're working towards buying the house we're currently renting. After this past week, though, I hope he can be convinced to relocate. About 6 days ago, I was in the living room watching a show about hoarding when I heard something big dragging across our porch. It was around 11 p.m., and Jake had literally only been at work for an hour at this point. Sounds on our porch weren't unusual. There was a cat buffet out there. But whatever had made this sounded bigger than a cat. Its weight was closer to that of a dog, or even a person. I paused the television and waited in silence for it to happen again. My dog, Bella, asleep soundly at my feet. Nothing happened. Our front door leads straight into our living room. There are 2 huge windows that never seem to be completely covered by the curtains, and our couch sits right below those windows. I tried to arrange the curtains so the part of the window that isn't covered is farthest away from my face. If I'm laying on the couch, it's nearest to my feet. I peeked out one of the windows onto the porch and saw absolutely nothing there. So I simply pressed play and kept watching my shows. When the sun came up, nothing was unusual, except the cat food was completely untouched. The bowl on the back porch wasn't empty like I expected. Nothing happened for a few days. Honestly, I had kind of forgotten about the sounds until 2 nights ago. This time, the dragging happened around 2 a.m. I was actually upstairs in our bedroom when I heard it this time. Our bedroom window is right above the porch, and I was shocked to realize I could hear this sound from all the way upstairs. It was far too heavy to be a cat. I muted the TV and listened, slightly nervous. My dog was in the bed next to me listening as well. The dragging continued. It was like someone was dragging their shoes across the wooden porch. Bella started to growl. It was a low, throaty sound I had never heard her make before. The fact that my dog was upset by this made me nervous. I couldn't call Jake until he went on break at 3 a.m. Not knowing what else to really do, I got up from the bed and walked quietly to the window. I opened it about a finger's width and listened for the dragging. The sound of a cat almost had me laughing with relief. Of course it wasn't a person. Bella had never once growled at a cat on our porch before, but maybe it was because we were all the way upstairs. I wondered if the sound was Toby. He was an orange tabby that was heavier than all the rest of the strays. He had a few other houses on the street feeding him. The dragging continued. Even Toby didn't seem to be that heavy. For almost 15 minutes, something dragged across my porch from one end to the other, repetitively. Then, it stopped completely. Bella stopped growling and went back to sleep, and I waited nervously to call Jake. He thought it was Toby.
"You're tired,"
he told me.
"You're up at night watching TV by yourself. Your imagination is running away from you."
That didn't explain why Bella was upset. But maybe he was right. For all I knew, there was a stray cat I didn't know yet, putzing around on our porch. The next morning, the cat food bowl was toppled over. None of the food inside was eaten. This all leads me to what happened last night, just a few hours ago. Jake was off work Monday. We spent the night enjoying each other's company and watching movies on the couch. Neither of us heard anything strange. I went to work Tuesday morning on basically no sleep at all. I came home to do my usual routine and threw Jake's work uniform into the laundry. While I waited for it to dry, I made the mistake of falling asleep on the couch. I woke around 2 a.m. to the sound of a cat meowing. Moonlight was streaming through the crack where the curtains didn't fully cover the window by my feet. The television had turned itself off because it was on a set timer. Jake must have gotten ready and left for work without waking me up. Bella lay on the floor beside the couch, and again, she was growling. Bella growled louder at the sound of it. Her hackles were raised, and I could tell She was working her way up to a bark. Dragging again. The thing lumbered across the porch and over to the window. I could see the shape of it blocking out the light where the curtain didn't cover. In that moment, I was sure of two things. The first was that there was not a cat on my porch at all. The second was that whatever was out there was looking into my living room. This was a damn near perfect cat impression. If I couldn't see the huge, horrifying, human-shaped shadow at my window, I might have even believed it. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I couldn't move. Bella jumped to her feet, ran to the side of the window where the shadow loomed, and let out one good, ferocious bark. Then, she seemed to really see whoever was at the window. She began to tremble and whimper. The shadow said to her, I was too frightened to move. My dog was whining at my feet, and I couldn't tell if this weirdo on my porch was able to see me laying there or not. After a few moments of silence, a bark resounded through the room. At first, I thought Bella had found her voice again, but she was still shaking at my feet. No sound had come from her mouth. The shadow at the window was mimicking her. I could feel tears start to stream down my face. All I could think about was a question. Had Jake locked the door before he left for work? I don't know how long I laid there, crying in silence and fear, listening to this shadowy person meow and bark. When the sun came up around 5 a.m., the shadow shifted. It seemed to slowly drag itself away from the window and off my porch. It's now 6 a.m. as I write this. Bella and I are still shaking. Jake should be getting off work soon. When he gets here, I'm telling him, I want to fucking move.